1. I woke up in a strange room. Just as I sat up, the door was pushed open. "You're awake." The man's voice was melodious and pleasant. I was stunned for 2 seconds and looked at the face I had been longing for a long time. "Do you still feel uncomfortable anywhere?" he asked. I suddenly came to my senses and let out a cry. "Theodore," he smiled faintly and said, "Yes, I had a blackout and couldn't remember what had happened last night at all. I could only shake my head." "No, did I drink too much and cause you a lot of trouble?" he said. "It's not really trouble. I was quite surprised when you hugged my leg last night and cried out for your husband not to leave." Hearing those 4 words, I felt as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. 2. Theodore was the new professor at the school. He had a tall, lean build and an almost model-like physique, with strikingly handsome features. When he taught, his shirt sleeves were rolled up to reveal 2 neat folds, and the silver chain around his neck swayed gently with each movement, giving him an air of quiet elegance mixed with a hint of wildness. Good looks, restraint, and a pleasant voice. Every single trait matched exactly what I was looking for. Well, I'll admit it. I'm definitely attracted to him. From the moment I first saw him, I was completely captivated. When my roommates found out I had a crush on Theodore, they all looked like they'd seen something shocking. Our dorm leader even placed a hand gently on my shoulder and said, "Kid, maybe you should rethink your approach. This one's not easy to win over." I said, "I just want Theodore. I'm not chasing the stars in the sky." He sighed and replied, "Maybe you should aim for something simpler, like those stars up there. I could even build a ladder to reach them for you." What kind of words are those? One day, I'll definitely get him. 3. I blacked out, but not completely. I had a few good roommates who, instead of stopping me when I was acting wild, even took videos to help preserve the memories of my youth. Thanks. After watching it, all I could think was, from now on, I might as well stop caring about face saving, because I've already lost it all. Good heavens. What did I do? In that video, I actually called the professor husband. I'd yelled, "Honey," at him over the phone, but then I actually pushed him into coming to a bar to pick me up. There I was on screen, dropping down hard onto my knees and grabbing his legs while sobbing uncontrollably. Then I grabbed the hem of his pants, wiping my tears all over them, before looking up at him with a face full of hurt. "Honey, I like you so much. Why can't you just like me back?" I couldn't bear watching anymore, but my roommate, who was laughing so hard he could barely breathe, wouldn't let me stop. I had to watch the rest. On screen, I held on to Theodore's legs like they were my lifeline. Every time he took a step, I moved with him, crying so hard it was clear I just didn't want to let go. "Honey, don't leave." I heard the laughter beside me, along with the sound of my own crying from the phone recording, and suddenly felt like this life had stretched on forever. For there was once a tiny seed of love growing deep inside me, but it withered away after being drenched by a sudden downpour of bitterness. After leaving Theodore's house, I skipped 2 of his classes. Of course, I was caught right away. Theodore called on me during class, and my so-called reliable roommate said I'd gone straight to the infirmary that morning before even having time to submit an excuse. I don't know if Theodore believed it, but I sure don't. Later that afternoon, I received a message from him. "Theodore, heard you weren't feeling well. How are you doing now?" Caught off guard by such concern, my heart skipped a beat. I quickly replied, "Feeling much better now. Thanks for asking, Theodore." The next moment, a new message appeared in the chat window. "Mr. Theodore, if you're free this afternoon, come by my office and bring your laptop." My fingers paused over the keyboard. Turns out he just didn't want any student to fall behind in class. 5. When we met again, he didn't show any unusual reaction. Just gave me a quiet nod and said, "Have a seat. I'll send you the course materials. If anything's unclear, come ask me." The sky grew dark, but only the office still had its light on. Without noticing, it was just the 2 of us left. The drawing here isn't quite right. I was focused on the screen, completely unaware of when he had come up behind me. A voice came from above, making me jump. As I leaned back to look up, I saw his long, thick eyelashes beneath his glasses. Something almost enviable. He actually gave me a small smile and said, "Pay attention." The sight of his lips curving upward sent my heart racing unexpectedly, my face burning hot by now. Even my neck must have turned red enough to be noticeable. He took hold of the mouse in my hand, then wrapped his other arm around me from behind and rested it on the keyboard, fully enclosing me within his space. Theodore didn't know that at this moment, my heart was nearly bursting with excitement. His voice was smooth and clear. I could catch every word he said, yet I couldn't grasp what he meant. I might really have lost control. He fixed the error in my drawing, then smoothly stepped back. As his presence faded away, I felt a small pang of disappointment. Henry! He turned to call me. Let's grab dinner after we finish studying. 6. The walk to the cafeteria was short, but right then, I wished it would go on a little longer. I stayed 2 steps behind Theodore, deliberately stepping into his shadow without meaning to. He stopped suddenly without a word, and I almost ran into him. Everything okay, Theodore? I asked, my voice shaky, afraid he'd noticed something was off. Just wondering. Why did you miss my class twice? I stiffened for a moment. His question meant that he already knew that being sick was just an excuse. I glanced at him carefully, hesitantly asking, how did you find out? Theodore seemed to smile slightly. The school nurse is a friend of mine. He told me you never went. Then he took a step towards me. I was completely unprepared and subconsciously took a step back. And then my back hit the tree trunk. Theodore placed a hand on me, smiling softly as he asked, is it embarrassing to have been brought home by me? His sudden reaction made me feel extremely flattered. There's a stone bridge here, surrounded by weeping willows, and the night lights are sparse and faint, which is why many couples come to take walks. No one noticed us, but I felt that when his gaze landed on me, it was as if 1,000 eyes were watching at once. I enjoyed it but was also in a panic. It's not embarrassing at all. I was so flustered I couldn't speak, but he pulled his hand back and dropped the smile. Skip class one more time, and you'll get a failing grade. I hadn't even recovered from his earlier kindness when it hit me like a thunderbolt. What? 7. That night, I didn't stop smiling until I got back to my dorm. Of course, my roommates caught me right away. Seeing their mischievous grins, I blurted out, I went to eat with Theodore. What kind of food did you have? Didn't it take forever? Did you not do anything else? They each fired off a question, making my head ache. I was at the cafeteria, under broad daylight. What could I possibly have done with him? They exchanged a quiet sigh, shook their heads, and walked off separately. Me, what's with that look? Like you're disappointed I didn't turn out better? Only the eldest showed me some mercy. He returned to his gaming chair, then used his toes to push off and zipped over to my side in a flash, whispering, that night when you were drunk, there was actually one thing we didn't capture. You kept fussing, and it took Theodore holding you gently for a long while before you finally agreed to go with him. That kind of care. The elder rubbed his arm, feeling goosebumps. Anyone with eyes could tell he's into you. I was extremely shocked. Seriously, Dad's taking back the earlier suggestion to change into a suit pants for your bow-down moment. Believe me, he really likes you, and in the end, it was him who stopped the recording. So don't blame us now. I stood frozen, staring at the new message that appeared in the top-ranked chat on my phone. Theodore, are you here yet? I sent him a meme dazedly, and he replied instantly. Theodore, were you kidnapped? I quickly withdrew my message and replied, no, just arrived. Theodore, get some rest early. See you tomorrow. My senior caught sight of it and gave me a playful smile, teasing, kid, go for it. Your success is what keeps our dorm's grades from falling apart. I couldn't fall asleep. My mind kept replaying the image of Theodore reaching over tonight. His lashes were long, and when he smiled, just a gentle lift at the corners of his mouth. Suddenly I seemed to hear ice cracking, as if spring had finally arrived and everything was coming back to life. So I just kept my eyes open excitedly until dawn. The next day, I showed up with dark circles under my eyes, deliberately staying behind to catch one more glimpse of Theodore organizing his lesson plans. After everyone had left, he called out to me and handed me a bottle of water, asking, did you not sleep well last night? Well, there were mosquitoes in my dorm, and they kept me awake. He suddenly reached out and gently ruffled my hair, then quietly said, you're really bad at lying. It's already deep autumn. Where would mosquitoes even come from? As he pulled his hand back, I caught sight of the watch on his wrist and paused for a moment. I recognized that style right away. I'd even looked it up before, and the official website listed it at over $1 million. Not many people can afford such a limited edition model, yet I've run into 2 of them in just a few months. Could this really be a coincidence? What's wrong? You're zoning out. I came to my senses and shook my head. Nothing. Is your watch something you just bought recently? Theodore glanced down at his wrist and replied, No, I've had it for about half a year. About 3 months ago, I helped a young woman out at a bar. It got complicated. Basically, those guys took revenge on me, and things ended up in a physical confrontation. Being outnumbered, I ended up with multiple injuries. When I was near losing consciousness from the pain, someone caught me in their arms. At that moment, my eyelids felt so heavy that I could barely keep them open. But just before I passed out, I managed to notice a luxury watch on the person's wrist. When I woke up in the hospital, my roommate was sitting by my bedside. They told me that when they were notified to come to the hospital, someone had already paid for all my medical expenses, and even settled the bar's compensation in full. Later, I found out those individuals were detained for creating a disturbance, but the owner of that watch just disappeared without a trace. I asked quite a few people, and everyone gave me different answers. I cross-checked the information I gathered and tracked down each of them, but none of them turned out to be the owner of that watch. 10. The weekend came, and all my roommates had gone back home. The large dormitory was left empty. Just me, the only one remaining, bored out of mind. I was about to watch a new movie for fun, when my phone suddenly lit up with a message notification. Theodore, I washed your clothes for you. Wanna come pick them up tonight? That's when it hit me. On the night I was drunk, it was Theodore who helped change my clothes, and I still hadn't thanked him yet. Tonight could actually be a good chance to do just that. Sure thing, I replied. I stopped by the supermarket to buy some seasonal fruit, then hailed a taxi and headed to the address he sent me. When Theodore opened the door for me, he was still wearing an apron. It seemed that he was cooking. Stay for a meal? I agreed without even bothering to refuse. Driven by my own desire, Theodore lived in a one-bedroom apartment that wasn't very large. Watching the tall figure moving around in the small kitchen, I couldn't help but think he seemed a bit cramped and overwhelmed in such a tight space. His cooking was excellent. I could smell the rich aroma from the table, making my mouth water. He carefully served me a plate and handed it over, then asked, Care for a drink? That night, the embarrassing memories flashed through my mind like scenes in a moving picture, each one following quickly after the last. I quickly refused. No thanks, never again. He gave a faint smile and said, It's fine this time, only I saw it. My face turned bright red without me even being able to stop it. 11. I ended up having a few sips, but I didn't dare take more than that. After clearing away the dishes, we leaned against the balcony to digest food and enjoy the breeze. Against the backdrop of the distant lights, I saw Theodore's profile, with very distinct features. Now that it wasn't class time, he wasn't wearing his glasses, so his striking features were fully visible, plainly and directly catching my eye. What are you looking at? He turned his head toward me and smiled. My heart gave a sudden, sharp skip. Theodore smiled in public too, but that smile was different from the one just now. In class, even when he smiled, he still seemed distant and refined, hard to approach. I don't know if it's an illusion, but I always feel that when he looks at me, the smile in his eyes is gentle. I should be getting back now. I almost wanted to hit myself. This was my chance to be alone with Theodore. Why did I even want to leave? Fortunately, he stopped me. Won't you stay a little longer? My hair was ruffled again, and Theodore leaned in, asking me, Do you still remember what happened that night? Not just that. I'd probably remember that moment even if I were in the grave. I was clinging to a man's legs, begging him not to leave, calling him, Honey, don't go. Just thinking about it makes me feel like my whole life has turned dark. Really? 12. A soft laugh echoed nearby. It's nothing. I actually think it's kind of cute. Damn it. I'm a towering guy nearly 6 feet tall, and yet I couldn't even muster the will to argue when called cute. What am I supposed to do? I'm totally lost. I took a bold step and asked him a personal question. Who do you usually like? Me, huh? His lips seemed to curve slightly. Close your eyes. His words felt like they had magic. I did as he said. A gentle touch brushed my lips, then quickly pulled away. When I opened my eyes, he had already stepped back. I stood there frozen. He never actually answered my question. Just said, "I'll take you back." I wandered to the dorm in a daze. After closing the door behind me, I leaned against the wall, clutching the clothes I'd just picked up, and my legs gave out with a soft thud as I sank down onto the floor. Theodore, what does this mean? Does he like me too? 13. I stayed quiet and kept a low profile. I didn't dare reach out to Theodore on my own, nor did I mention it to my roommate. Afraid I'd accidentally let something slip, but Theodore became increasingly bold, almost inviting me to dinner every day and regularly bringing small gifts. Sometimes when I came back to the dorm late, my roommate would corner me with questions. "Kid, are you secretly in a relationship?" I shook my head firmly. "No. Why do you look so happy lately?" Or, my roommate gave me a shocked expression. I could tell exactly what he was thinking, so I quickly shoved some snacks into his mouth to stop him. I'd love to be in a relationship, but I don't have the courage to ask Theodore what that kiss meant. I'm afraid he might have just been in the moment. 14. I spent another week with the two of us sticking close after class. Eventually, I couldn't hold back anymore and decided to talk things through with Theodore. He never gave me a clear answer, and my worry about him leading me on kept growing. It turned out that the more I feared something, the more likely it was to happen. On Friday after class, he turned down my request to meet up, saying he had some matters to attend to. I don't know what came over me. Maybe I was just desperate for an answer. But I ended up taking a taxi straight to his apartment building. As I was about to get out, I saw a woman in a flowing red dress walking beside Theodore, laughing and talking with him as they disappeared into the entrance. My hands were shaking so badly I could feel it all the way to my fingertips, and I fumbled with the car door twice before managing to open it. I wanted to follow them to find out what was going on, but I didn't have the courage. I'm the most useless coward in the world. I don't have any official status or right to do anything like this. The truth is, I'm afraid he really has a family. What would I even be? Some kind of male third party? Or worse, just an unofficial one. I stood downstairs in front of the apartment building for a long time, and when I left, I removed Theodore from my top contacts. I guess it's best to let it go. 15. I stayed in my dorm for 2 days, then got up before my roommate returned to tidy myself up as much as possible, trying not to let anyone notice how I'd been feeling. My phone had several new messages. They were all from Theodore. Theodore. Image. Theodore. I baked a cake. I'll bring it over later. I couldn't figure out why he'd send me messages caring about me after bringing someone else home. I didn't want to dwell on it anymore, so I replied, "No need. I've already eaten." He was as thoughtful as ever, able to sense the sadness I'd hidden in my message. "Theodore, what's wrong? Are you upset?" "No, Theodore. I'll come find you then." I didn't want to reply anymore, and I was worried my roommate might walk in and see me like this, so I stepped out and sat at a quiet bar nearby. I ordered a drink, planning to sit alone and feel the weight of solitude. Just as I lifted my glass, my wrist was gently held. My gaze dropped to the well-shaped wrist, and when I saw the watch face, my movement paused for a moment. That night's memories came rushing back, and I looked up to see the face in front of me slowly merging with the one I couldn't make out before. "Why are you here alone again? Drinking by yourself?" I pulled my hand free and pushed the images in my mind aside. Even if Theodore is that person, what does it matter? He's already brought someone home. I'm not going to be the kind of person who hides in the shadows. What's wrong? He didn't seem upset. He just sat down beside me instead. I really did have something to attend to that Friday. It wasn't an excuse. "Henry, are you upset about this?" I stared at him for a long time but didn't say anything. He asked, "Don't you want to talk about it?" "Theodore, go ahead, speak. Do you have a family?" Theodore looked at me, his expression momentarily puzzled. "Of course not. Why would you ask something like that?" "Nothing." I stayed silent, and suddenly, I wasn't so eager to know the answer. Seeing that I wasn't engaging, he didn't push further and instead asked someone for another cocktail. We sat in silence for a long time, until we both lost interest. I finally got up and left. I knew he was following behind me. Once we were away from the crowd, He stepped in front of me and said, "Henry, let's talk." Staying like this wasn't helping. Things needed to be settled, so I agreed. All right, I got in the car with him and heard his first question. "Henry, are you upset with me?" he said. "What's the reason?" I couldn't bring myself to say it. Theodore seemed to have lost his patience. He moved very close, pressing me between the seat and himself. I could hear his breathing, even feel his breath against my face. If he had come just a little closer, our lips would have touched. Seeing that I didn't pull away, he kissed me directly. I tried to push him away, but he caught my hand with a firm grip. After he let go, I raised my hand as if to strike his face, then pulled back at the last moment. Besides, it'd be a shame to ruin that face with a swollen mark. I reached for the car door to get out, but he pulled me back again. "This is my intention. I like you, Henry." 16. At that moment, I think I finally understood what a deep emotional stir feels like. But just thinking about him bringing someone home made my heart sink back into icy cold despair. "Do you really not care if your wife finds out?" Theodore looked puzzled. "What wife?" I let my heart break into pieces, speaking to him in a painful way. "You've brought people home before." He seemed to finally realize the reason and burst out laughing. "Henry, didn't you come looking for me on Friday?" By this point, there was nothing left to hide. "Yes, I admitted it." Theodore smiled. "I see now. The girl you saw was probably my sister," he added quickly, worried I might doubt him. "My real sister." I stared at him blankly, stunned. "Is there anything else you'd like to ask?" He ruffled my hair again. "What exactly is our relationship, then?" I touched the sore spot on my lip with my fingertip. Just brushing it sent a sharp pang through me. "Of course, it's a pursuit and being pursued kind of relationship," Theodore said honestly. "I'm the one chasing you." 17. After hearing Theodore's explanation, I sat in the car, saying nothing for a long time. He said the kiss was to make sure I wouldn't run away, just marking his place. He hadn't rushed into confessing because he felt unprepared, and he hadn't taken me home to meet his sister out of concern that it might make me uncomfortable. I have to admit he thought things through carefully, but I still ended up feeling down for 2 whole days. "Shall we start being together now?" "The choice is yours," he said, resting his hand on the back of my seat while staying very close to me. Even though he made it sound so fair, I had no doubt that if I said no, he'd kiss me without hesitation right away. So I refused because I wanted to be kissed. The kiss I expected didn't come, but instead I heard a low laugh near my ear. "Huh? Why aren't you playing it by the usual rules? Shouldn't you be annoyed instead?" He always loved messing up my hair, then gave me a fond smile. "All right, I'll go with whatever you want." Seeing his face so close and clearly handsome made me blush deeply. I quickly pecked him on the cheek. "Here's a mark for you too." "Okay. I won't run away." I was caught by my roommates while I was on the phone with Theodore. Under their questioning, I chose to come clean. After hearing it, they looked down on me. Third brother said, "So you two haven't actually started dating yet?" I said, "We're just a little short of that. I'd taken a personal day and hadn't gone to class, so I had no idea what happened afterward." They told me later that Theodore had been approached by a student who confessed their feelings. It was said that Theodore smiled politely, gently declined the advance, and ultimately replied, "I already have someone special in my heart." I felt a little jealous, but at the same time, I was really glad Theodore was finally going to be mine. That evening, Theodore came to pick me up himself and took me back to his home, not the apartment building we'd been staying in. It was the house he used to live in before. He explained to me, "Since I came to the school, I bought an apartment nearby for convenience at work, but this place is actually my real home." I stared in disbelief at the cluster of villas surrounded by mountains and water. "I knew you were well off, but I didn't realize you were this wealthy. Want to come to my room?" He invited me. My mind suddenly lit up like a burst of fireworks. What's he trying to do? Acting so bold without any clear arrangement. Really bold. Going or not? He gently tapped the back of my head, reminding me, and asked again. "He's using his looks to get what he wants. Fine. I'll go already." He covered my eyes and led me to the room in a secretive way. I had a vague idea of what he might be planning, but when I actually saw the scene before me, I stood frozen in place. The room was decorated like a wedding venue, and I stood amidst a sea of red roses. completely forgetting how to move my feet. "Come here." He gestured for me to hand him my hands, then led me to the edge of the bed. Only then did I notice that beneath the bed were identical little cat plush toys, neatly arranged in AR. Each toy held a gift box in its front paws. He gently nudged my waist and pointed ahead. "Go on, open one." I did as I was told, and nearly burst into excitement the moment I opened the first one. It turned out to be a concert ticket. I'd asked all my dorm mates to help me get it but never managed. And now Theodore had handed it right to me. "Take your time, there's more, just go slow." I handed the ticket to him and stepped up on my toes, moving through the sea of plush toys, each new gift leaving me more amazed than before. 98 gifts in total, ranging from small to large. Their only shared trait was that they were all quite valuable. The most expensive one was a Patek Philippe watch. Since there wasn't a matching pair, he chose a similar one for me. It was even more valuable than the one he was wearing on his wrist. For those that couldn't be displayed in the room, he slipped a note into each gift box, then led me to the floor-to-ceiling window and gestured for me to look down. What I saw was unforgettable. I spotted my roommates standing in the middle of a pile of gifts nearly as tall as half the building, waving at me and cheering. A drone hovered to a stop by the window, and Theodore took down the gift hanging from it. "This is the Tachon. Mr. Henry, please accept your boyfriend." I stared at the ring now on my finger, lost in thought. How could someone be so unreasonable even with a proposal? The room was just us two. No one watching, no crowd cheering. He wanted me to have time to think, but I nodded without hesitation. "I'll take it. I'll take it." He held me close, his lips brushing against my cheek. "Are you sure you don't want to think it over?" I said firmly. "If you keep asking, I'm going to run away." He laughed softly. All those days of preparation finally paid off. "I've got you now." I cupped his face, gently squeezing and shaping it. "It's not the gifts. It's because I really like you. Of course, I like the gifts too." He wrapped his arms around me, resting his chin on my shoulder with a satisfied sigh. "I know, I feel the same way. Deeply fond of you." Henry's perspective. 1. I'm Theodore, a bar owner and part-time university professor. 3 months ago, I met a young man at the bar who caught my interest. He's quite good-looking, with an elegant presence. He's been coming by every day lately, always alone. Almost like he sneaks out just to have a quiet drink. I had a drink sent over to him, but he politely declined with a smile. My bartender replied, "Boss, he said he doesn't accept drinks from strangers. If you want to offer one, you'd have to go over yourself. Just treat it as getting to know each other. Meeting in person, that's definitely something I'll do." That night, as he left, I watched him go and happened to see him step in to help someone in need. I didn't intervene myself. Just made sure someone was called over. Wouldn't want anything bad happening to him. Luckily, there were plenty of people around. Faced with the threat of a police report, those few troublemakers didn't dare push too hard, and eventually let go of the young woman they'd been holding. Little Pretty. That's what I'll call him for now. He took the young woman to the police station, explained what had happened, then left without another word. I thought that was the end of it and planned to meet him the next day, but I ended up running late because I was preparing a gift, and then the bartender came over to report trouble in the restroom. I didn't see Little Pretty at the bar, and for no clear reason, I suddenly felt uneasy. I rushed to the restroom and saw him facing off against 4 or 5 people alone, my heart racing with worry. He was skilled in fighting, but even the strongest fighter can't handle so many opponents at once. Luckily, security arrived just in time and managed to subdue those troublemakers. I hurriedly caught the person swaying unsteadily, and he collapsed into my arms. 2. I took him to the hospital, paid for his medical bills, and made sure everyone who saw me kept quiet before I secretly contacted his roommate. It wasn't because I wanted to do something kind without getting credit. I just wanted to get closer to him, and didn't want that small act of help to cloud his judgment. He stayed in the hospital for half a month, then was required by the school to take another 2 weeks off. When he returned to class, I had already transferred to his school. The first time he saw me was at the classroom door. I noticed him standing still, staring at me for about 4 or 5 seconds. It wasn't until his roommate lightly nudged his arm that he finally remembered to move forward. I gave him a slight nod, and suddenly his face turned red. In that moment, I realized there might be something special between us. Later, he ended up in my class. During lessons, his eyes would often meet mine before quickly looking down again, his ears turning slightly pink. He was so sweet, and a little bit of a romantic dreamer too, but I really liked that about him. 3. He was under the influence of alcohol. I was surprised when I got his call, hearing him sobbing on the phone and calling me, "Honey." I nearly put my shoes on the wrong feet as I rushed out. I didn't realize he had this side to him. When he was drunk, his behavior was completely different from when he was alone. He clung to my legs and cried softly, looking up at me with big, teary eyes and asking why I didn't want him. It was heartbreaking. He looked like a lost little kitten no one wanted. I persuaded and convinced his roommate to stop recording. Only then was I able to lift him up and gently guide him back to my place. He was restless when drunk, rolling around on my bed, calling out for hug, husband over and over. I was really glad I kept myself together. Otherwise, I'd probably have gotten into trouble if he woke up angry tomorrow. I made him some soothing drink and fed it to him. After that, he finally calmed down, but then he wouldn't let go of my hand. I ended up staying by the bed, just making do with sleeping like that for the night. The next day, when he saw me, his look of panic seemed completely genuine. I immediately realized, oh, he had no memory of it. That was easy. I gave him a hint, deliberately mentioning the word husband right in front of him, and his expression went completely blank, even cuter than before, for he started avoiding me, even skipping classes to do so. How could that be allowed? I sent him a message, asking him to come to my office. He actually showed up, but was so nervous he seemed like a well-behaved student. Nothing at all like the brooding, intense version of himself he'd been outside, when drinking alone or acting out. Switching between those two sides so quickly was quite something. I asked him to find a spot to sit, then sent over the materials for him to study on his own. All throughout, I kept observing his reactions. He was completely focused and didn't notice anything. Not even when I quietly got up and moved behind him did he catch on. Sure, cute ones are usually oblivious. I guided his hand to fix the mistakes on the drawing, and I could clearly feel a slight twitch on the back of his hand. It was a tiny movement. I knew he was nervous. If I just leaned forward slightly, I could see his eyelashes fluttering. A little lower, his skin was smooth and flawless. Kissing him would probably feel really nice. I asked him to have dinner with me. He lit up like a kid at Christmas. He thought he was hiding it well, but his feelings were written all over his face, like a shy little puppy. 5. I wanted a chance to talk with him more, and the clothes he left at my place turned out to be a perfect excuse. I had already learned about his preferences and prepared a full meal for him. The way he looked at me was full of warmth and delight. How could someone be this adorable? After dinner, we slipped off to the balcony for a walk, and suddenly he asked me what kind of person I liked. Was it even a question? Definitely someone like him. I kissed him. He turned bright red in an instant, like a cooked shrimp. I felt terrible. I must have scared him off. Why did he act like a rabbit, running away the moment he got nervous? Luckily, I noticed in time and kept inviting him out every day until I finally won him back. But just a week later, his attitude toward me changed. He became distant. Was he upset? After thinking it through, I gently declined his invitation to meet on Friday. There was no other choice back then. My sister came to visit me, and given her personality, she'd definitely scare Henry off if she saw him. Henry was supposed to be my future partner, and if I scared him off, I wouldn't have anyone to turn to. I tried comforting him for a long time, but Henry just wouldn't say anything. With no other choice left, I kissed him forcefully. He wanted to push me away, but couldn't bring himself to do it. Then he said in a sarcastic tone, "Won't your wife be upset?" I was confused. What wife? Isn't my wife right here? After a long pause, it finally clicked. I realized he had misunderstood. Henry acted like a quiet kid, silently jealous and sulking all the while. It almost cost me my chance at having a partner. Time to go for it. 6. We've known each other for a while now. I quietly reached out to his roommate and asked them to help me pick out gifts as a surprise, planning to give myself as the TH gift. Do you think he'd be happy? 7. I'm already married. On his birthday, I lured him to my place and even helped invite his roommate over. That night he was really happy, hugging me like the time he got drunk and called me husband. This time it was different from last time. No one laughed. His roommate just looked annoyed and quickly made excuses to leave. He leaned against me, chuckling quietly like a kid lost in his own world. Well, it's my own choice. I might as well accept that he's a little goofy. What else can I do? 9. I noticed he kept staring at my watch, guessing he was remembering something. Sure enough, the moment I spoke, he said, "Did you used to help me before? You helped me pay medical bills and handled the bar compensation, right?" He's not as clueless as he seems. He's been holding on to that memory all this time, only asking about it a bit late. I still gave him an answer. Yes. He pressed me on why I'd kept it a secret. I made up an excuse to get by, even though I'd already won him over. I'm still a man who cares about appearances. 10. At the end of that year, I married him abroad through official registration. That day, he held the marriage certificate and asked me, "Why do so many people like you, yet you chose me? It's love at first sight. What kind of reason could there be?" At the moment we met, everything around me seemed to fade away, and all I could clearly see was him. I wanted to say that, but I was afraid he'd think I was being overly sentimental, so I thought for a moment and told him how unforgettable it was. The time he held me close when drunk and called me honey.